time to talk about the birds and the bees, from the flowers to the trees on the Wild Edible World podcast. I am just one of your dynamic duo, and my name is Michael.
And I would be the other half. This is Steve. We have another special treat for you this week. This week, we're going to throw a shout out to the homies. And of course, by that, I mean the pollinators in our world. With spring right around the corner, hopefully crossing my fingers, crossing my toes. Right around the corner. We wanted to talk about pollinators a little bit. Maybe some of the lesser-known variety.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about, I think some of the stuff that we all know, but I think we might be able to throw out some ideas on how to improve your local pollinator statuses. And also in the second half, we're going to have a really cool conversation with our friend of the pod, Evynn Davis, who is a published research scientist about bats. Worked on them down in Panama. Mostly fruit-eating bats, but she still has a lot of cool stuff to say about how they operate as pollinators, and we just try to redeem their stigmatized, ambiance, their vibe,
their demeanor, their persona, their those crazy guys, those bats. They're wonderful pollinators, and that's kind of what we wanted to focus on. So everybody knows honeybees, right? Mm-hmm. Bumblebees, those little cute little.
Who doesn't love honey?
Fluffy, chunky boys flying around.
Oh, yeah. Oops, bonk.
Yeah.
Excuse me, bonk.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, sir.
Excuse me. Yeah.
But we wanted to talk a little bit more. I mean, obviously bees, freaking awesome.
Yeah, bees are awesome. They have their places. And the number of bees that operate as pollinators, it's not just the typical, 3 standard bees, that you just listed off even. You know, there's carpenter. There's tons of solitary species of bees that don't build hives, but actually kind of build their own homes or just kind of sleep underneath leaves or inside of flowers overnight and stuff. It's cute as heck.
The cutest
so
things
cute.
You can imagine. Yeah.
But also wasps. There's wasps out there that do lots of pollinating while they're also injecting other wasps with wasps, and it's wasps all the way down.
It's like wasp inception.
It is. It's terrifying. Seriously terrifying. But there's a lot of people that, or a lot of creatures that play a role in pollination, humans included, when we're just walking around. So let's talk about that a little bit. We wanted to start off with like bees. So we were already kind of talking about that. Honeybees, they're pretty typical. I think what people think of a functional pollinator. So not only are you getting your trees or your fruits and your vegetables pollinated, but they're bringing that stuff home and creating delicious honey out of it. There's a problem though.
Dun, dun, dun.
They're a non-native species.
It's true.
They're actually consuming a lot of these pollen and energy and food that could be more well devoted to native species. Honeybees are, they're not the biggest evil on the earth or whatever, and I'm not going to even tell anybody to not get a hive and make your own honey.
Please do.
Seriously, do it.
Mm-hmm.
But just know that there are other options that you should be supplementing your area with to kind of compensate for the I wouldn't say invasive species, but they're definitely non-native.
Yeah, I would say it's more of it falls in a dandelion type niche, where it's
naturalized.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's true. That's true.
In fact, if I'm not mistaken, I think that's why dandelions were originally brought over, were to supplement the honeybee population because it's an early.
Oh yeah,
bloomer.
That's. It was a food crop. It was again a multifunctional settler food crop.
Sure.
So
multiple different blooms per season.
Yeah.
Honestly, it feels like per week. But that's so. Bees doing good things. Honey's obviously delicious. There are thousands and thousands of varieties of bees. Like you said earlier, there's bees that are tiny as a pinhead. There are bees that are big and goofy looking, and there's some that are kind of scary. But they all serve a purpose. And fun fact about bees, they actually evolved from wasps. What? Yeah. I mean it. They did. So that's. I mean, I'm not going to get too deep into that, but you can research it. Wasps are also very good pollinators because, I'm sure they like a little sweet snack from now and then, and travel into different flowers and.
I'm still blown away by the wasp.
I know. I can tell. You got that look on your face, like, what?
I didn't know that it was wasps all the way down from bees too. You can't escape them. My God. That's really cool. Yeah. But they definitely they play their own role as much as we want to make wasps out to be kind of the villain of the insect world. They're just out there doing their thing, man.
And some of them are kind of little shits, but there are a lot of other very beneficial parasitic wasps that I mean, as a gardener, that tomato hornworm, which of course turns into a beautiful butterfly, but like. It does a lot of damage as well. So like there are all those gnarly pictures you see of a green caterpillar with a bunch of like eggs.
It's got like white spines sticking out of it, and I was like, wow, what a weird looking caterpillar. And then I realized that it was all larvae growing out of its back. Yeah, and it's like, ooh,
that's how the wasp does its thing.
Goosebumps, man. It still makes me feel uneasy. But it is the beautiful circle of life, right?
Yeah. So we got bees, we got wasps, flies. Are they annoying? Yes. Do they pollinate? Absolutely. Flies, they're like silly little flying like drunk people, They can't fly very well, so they're landing constantly.
I don't know how you can see with those eyes, man.
Yeah, how do you do that? Tell us, Jeff Goldblum, tell us.
How you do it. But one of my favorite little facts about what plants what flies pollinate is wild ginger. So one of a lot of foragers' favorite spices or like pot herbs that taste a lot like ginger. It has this really small jug flower that grows like on the ground, and it's been researched and noted that flies will hide in there during rain, as well as like being pollinated by ants.
Who wouldn't hide in that little?
If you there was could fit,
I would totally do it.
I would do it every day. Yeah. Go out there for my lunch, eat a sandwich. It smells like vomit in there, but
oh no.
So that's part of, and I think we might talk about this with Evynn, that there's a lot of stuff that, because there was, as far as like scent is concerned and how animals operate on that. So flies will really pollinate some like stinky smelling stuff. Sure. They're attracted to that, and those plants have developed those chemicals to bring flies there. Yeah. So a lot of these, Bradford pear, as much as we don't like it,
sons of bees,
it has developed this scent, and it's really popular with flies. It's pollinated by flies. So what else? I guess we named a couple pollinators there. We got ants. Ants are a pretty underrated pollinator for a lot of things that grow really low to the ground, even in trees or a lot of your flowers, rose bushes, or what's peonies. I'm pretty sure peonies have a specific interaction with ants where the ants, you're going to be growing your peonies, and then a lot of first-time growers. What?
No, go ahead.
Okay, well, a lot of first-time growers will like be taking pictures of their peonies and be like, "What the hell are these ants all over my flowers?" And then everybody's like, "No. This is how it goes. They're actually like farming the flower and like working with it interchangeably or whatever, and they're beneficial."
I was gonna say that same thing. Like I've now that you mention it, I've definitely seen ants all over peonies. Mm-hmm. That's fucking fascinating. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah, it's a partnership.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, you don't want to prevent them. That's actually it's part of the dealio. But you're gonna find them on roses. I find them on trees. I find them all over the place. So I
like ants.
I like ants too. Sugar ants are a real pain in my booty. But I think just the number of ants, if they ever decided that humans were yummy, the number of ants and ant colonies and how big in their populations on the planet, we're done for.
I think that the biomass of humans and the biomass of ants is almost like half. So that's a lot of effing ants.
It's a lot of ants. And with their like strength, I don't know.
Yeah, they're 10 times
like
stronger.
Everything combined, I think they'd be able to take us out.
Yeah.
If it were a fist fight.
If they could get the other pollinators in on their
yeah, I could win a fist fight against an ant, sure. Remember everyone was asking that shit about bears and like geese. Yeah, ants for sure. I could fight an ant. So what other? We got butterflies, pretty typical pollinator that people are aware of. So just
birds.
Birds, yep, definitely. Birds are in there sometimes. It's just kind of happenstance, but not even. A lot of cacti develop specific relationships with birds because they eat the nectar. Mm-hmm. So a lot of fruit also spread by birds. I'm sure everybody knows that during mulberry season, mulberry poop everywhere.
Yeah, definitely.
But, outside of anything else?
I mean, just the one we're about to talk about, the last guy there.
And of course, bats.
Bats. What the heck?
Yeah.
I never thought about it, but in my research for this episode, it's staggering. So, a big problem in Africa is deforestation, Sure. And 98% of the initial reseeding for those deforested areas are bats. 98% of the initial reseeding, because they're so like prolific as far as their it's wild. There's actually certain like fruit. There's something that I don't recall the name off the top of my head, but it almost resembles like a coconut, but it's almost like a coconut and a Brazil nut.
Okay.
So it's filled with these smaller nuts that are covered in flesh or fruit rather. And this when this thing is ripe, it pops open just a touch, and this one variety of bat can pry it open the rest of the way. It's almost like a little hatch that pops open, and the bat gets that fruit, eats the fruit, disperses the seed. So isn't that freaking nuts? It's like a staggering thing. How helpful.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of nature is developed like that, where it's just like, oh yeah, this fruit was almost made for that bat, and they get an exchange. You help me finish. You help me save the energy from breaking open this fruit and releasing the seed.
Sure.
You get the fruit. You drop my seed. Bada bing, bada boom. Everybody's happy. I don't know, I love the kind of like equivalent exchange in nature that happens a lot. Bats are an extremely underrated pollinator. We'll talk to Evynn about that for sure. We have tons of species up in North America where we live. They are, I think, globally distributed, except for for a couple countries and continent, and like obviously not in the North Pole, not in Antarctica, but they are everywhere. There's there's thousands of bats, different kinds of bats, and we're just kind of underrated. So let's talk a little bit about what we can do to support pollinators in your area, especially bats. So I wish we had remembered to bring this up with Evynn, but for bats specifically, you can install bat hotels. So you want to make sure, there are a few notes that I remember about that, and you want to make sure you don't put them in a tree, because they're already good at finding shelter in trees. So you want to kind of put it in a more open area where it's a little bit more, just kind of isolated, because the point is to provide more housing. And if you're putting it in a tree, you're actually just kind of, you're not adding anything. You're not really helping. There's a specific side of the house you're supposed to put it on too.
Yeah, I think I don't remember if I don't remember if it's north or south, but like under,
it has something to do with the sun in the winter.
Yeah, something that's like, I think it's above 14 feet tall and like under eaves preferably. I have one that I unfortunately can't use. I might put it up on a pole or something, because my house it's sloped on all four sides. So I have one that my friend Carol, hi Carol, bought for me a couple years ago, and it's just been in my garage. But I need to do something with it, because bats, not only do they pollinate, but they're also great at pest control, whatnot.
Yep, absolutely. So another little thing I think that really helps with pollinators, specifically maybe caterpillars, butterflies, leave your leaves. Don't rake your leaves. There's a lot of metamorphosis happening. There's kind of interstages. There's a lot of dormancy happening underneath the leaves, and this planet has gone its whole life with the leaves dropping and staying there. And so life has adapted for that cover.
Yeah, and breaking down. Fertilizing your lawn. And,
absolutely. Or just the ground. And whenever we have a lawn and we've, we've got these societal expectations to have a green, flat space with no leaves, even in the middle of fall or at the beginning of before warm weather in spring, just don't be in a rush to clear that stuff, because it is really important for a lot of these insects. And whenever you remove that cover, there's a lot more predation that happens. There's a lot more just general cold death that will happen. And I think we all notice less butterflies, less monarchs, less fireflies. Fireflies are hugely important. Those fireflies 100% rely on leaf cover over the winter in order to survive. And so I remember as a kid, fireflies everywhere. Now, no fireflies. That's because we've been grooming all of our lawns for 20 freaking years. There's no more firefly larvae, and, it shows. So that's one little thing I think all of us can, maybe lean on the lazy excuse a little bit, be happy about that. You don't have to rake your leaves. Please stop raking your leaves.
Do it for the fireflies. Do it for the bumblebees, those big lovable lunks. They overwinter in leaf piles and brush piles, so I always make sure to leave a section of my yard unkempt, especially for this reason.
Yep. So I think another way we can benefit local native pollinator wildlife is, and this is a pretty obvious one, planting local native plants.
Absolutely.
Wildflowers, plants, perennials, and making sure that we're dedicating, even just like a little bit. If you have a home, if you have a lawn, dedicate a little corner. If you feel comfortable dedicating the whole yard, that's even better. But even just a few square feet really can play host. If you have enough important plants in them, can really play host to 50 to 100 different species of insects. And in that, you're sustaining, 2-3 times that in the larger scale with the other birds, foxes, etc. in your local area. So
you can hit up your park districts to see native plant sales where people are super nice, and I always go to mine every year and try to pick up a few items. But yeah, you can definitely look there. What else?
There's always, I think we talked about this in one of our first episodes. I think it was in the community episode where we try to explain a little bit about how there's lots of opportunities in your libraries, county or city hall newsletters that'll send out and let you know different events are going on, especially in the springtime. There's lots of seed sharing activities, online groups to trade seeds and to educate yourself a little bit more about what native plants are right for your area, but also your local nursery. I think your garden store. Sometimes that can be a little bit of hit and miss, but I think people really care about trying to find the right thing, and usually those people are on the right path. So those are some good places to start as far as planting local native stuff in your area. And as far as hummingbirds, we didn't really talk about that much, but it's something I think about a lot whenever you're using hummingbird food. Really make your own. It's the easiest thing in the world to try to use healthier sugars and clean water, as opposed to using pre-mixed hummingbird food with dye in it that's dyed red. They don't care about what color the liquid is.
And also make sure to clean and sanitize your hummingbird feeders, because mold and bacteria in those can affect the hummingbirds?
Yeah, 100%. It's sugary water in there, and it's getting heated up sitting in the sun all day. That's
You're fermenting it.
It's asking for bacteria in there. So just try to use the dye-less stuff or make your own. There are signs that dye is harmful for the hummingbirds. So just a little stuff that we as consumers can do. I think we can also take a moment to acknowledge that we are just people, and that there are forces larger than us at play that are way more destructive and way more impactful and harmful on our environment than we could ever hope to be as individuals. And that's the same thing goes for the solution. We can do the little steps around us, but unfortunately, the solution isn't going to come from not using a straw. It's not going to come from planting a few flowers. It's going to come from large-scale industrial change. But I think conversations that we're having right now about pollinators and just little things that we can do ourselves are important steps nonetheless to move towards those bigger conversations.
Yeah, nothing changes if nothing changes.
Exactly.
At least you can do your part.
Yeah. And as long as if we all start thinking about it a little bit more, then the human psyche as a whole just kind of starts to flow that way. So I am happy to have you here to talk about it. I'm happy to talk to Evynn about this. And we're happy to have you guys here listening and talking with each other about it as well.
And the anticipation is killing me.
Yeah. So let's take a break, and then we'll get to our second half where we have a lovely chat with Evynn Davis. And thank you for joining us. We'll see you after the break.
Bye.
Oh, hey, Steve.
Oh, hey, Mike.
Well, what's wrong, buddy?
Well, I just got this new water bottle, but it just looks so plain.
Well, have I got the store for you. Introducing the Wild Edible World Podcast Merch Store.
Wowie wow!
It's the merch store where you can get all of your favorite podcasts merch for all your decorating purposes.
How do I find that?
Go to wildedibleworldpod.shopify.com or go to any of our Instagram and media accounts and view the link in the bio.
Wowie wow!
And we're back on the second half of the Wild Edible World podcast, and this is the special kind of pollinator episode, and we have a really cool guest on with us today. And
such a cool guest.
Yeah, that's Evynn Davis, somebody that we both know. I work with her at one of my other jobs. She's done work for the Lincoln Park Zoo. She was a research intern at the Smithsonian Tropical Research Institute, where she did lots of research about bats. She's published in a paper about bats. So we thought we'd talk to her about, just kind of how bats are an unconventional pollinator, or, just how they fit in this role in this episode. So thanks for joining us today, Evynn.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So let's get batty.
Yeah,
right?
let's bat it out.
Batty.
So, I think that this is a perfect opportunity to bring in bats because, our whole focus with this episode was to put a highlight on those lesser known pollinators, because most people think, it's bumblebees, honeybees, probably both of those, honeybees, bumblebees, that are pollinating, but there are some creatures that just don't get the credit. The flies and the butterflies and the wasps and the bats.
Ants, bats,
the bats. So tell us about you and bats, Evynn.
Yeah. So a quick background about me studying bats. First time I went down to Panama was in 2018, and I got to meet Rachel Page, who is the primary investigator at the Rachel Page Lab, which primarily studies bats. And then in 2019, during the fall, I went down and I studied fruit-eating bats, which are one of the two major groups of bats that pollinate different species. A lot of people, I think, give bats kind of a bad rep. I think they're one of the most awesome yet underrated animals. They're super cool. They take the night shift, as many people know. They come if you sitting out in your yard at night and you see little bats flying around, you think, oh, those bats are out eating eating insects, which is true. There are a bunch of species of bats around us that eat insects, but they also play a major role in pollinating crops and spreading seeds. Fun fact for all you margarita drinkers out there, the number one plant species that bats pollinate is actually agave.
Whoa.
You're kidding me. So those because whenever the agave flowers, doesn't it reach up like 12 feet tall or something?
Yeah, and bats love the agave nectar,
or
much
do they,
like we do.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, bats. I mean, I think that's a really good point, because the plant world and the bat world kind of work in tandem. I was doing a little bit of research before this, and there are actually plants that like turn their leaves up to act as reflectors to like guide the bats to them.
Not like light reflectors, but sound reflectors.
No, light.
Really light?
Yeah. I think. I mean, Aaron or Evan, please correct me. I'm going to do that all episode. I have no idea why.
That's
please,
okay.
Please,
my sister's name.
Please correct me. But the whole poor eyesight is a bit of a myth, isn't it? Don't bats generally see relatively well? It's just that the echolocation or the sonar, whatever you want to call it, is like an added feature, just like a plus.
Yeah, so a bunch of people, say I have eyes like a bat because they don't have good eyesight, but actually bats can see pretty well. They see really well at night, but during the day it's way too bright for them out. That's one of the reasons why they sleep during the day. And their echolocation, there's two different ways that bats can echolocate. Some of them echolocate through their mouths, so kind of like screaming, and then some of them echolocate through their nose. A lot of the fruit-eating bats and the nectar-eating bats, they'll echolocate through their nose. I can send you some pictures of the ones that I worked with. They have these like crazy, they almost look like leaves, so they call them leaf nose bats. They're really big, so they use those to like direct their echolocation while they're flying with stuff in their mouths.
They'll be doing it with their mouths full?
That's awesome.
Yeah, like they'll be flying with figs, dates, really big fruit in their mouth, and they'll be essentially, I guess, screaming through their nose to figure out where they're going.
I do that sometimes, personally. But I mean, and their echolocation's like very sensitive. Like they would be able to tell the difference between like the texture of my palm, which is a soft surface, and the like the desk that we're sitting at, which is a hard surface.
Yes, that is correct.
That's so cool.
That
Fascinating.
I didn't know that it was. Well, first of all, I was under the impression that they had bad eyesight as well.
Blind as a bat.
That's really fascinating to hear. So I'm sure there's like really specific plant relationships and associations that bats have where do you know of off the top of your head these like tropical plants that have these specific relationships and nobody else pollinates them, just the bats?
I can't say that nobody else would pollinate them, but I know like bananas and figs are like two of their favorite, I guess, fruits is what you could say, favorite foods. The fig tree specifically, their leaves sometimes turn down and are good for like bats to go up and roost in.
Okay.
So they're like little tents. They make little tents out of the leaves.
That's adorable.
Yeah, bats are really cute. I think people don't understand how adorable these little guys are.
Especially when you consider just the range of bats. There's something in the neighborhood of like upwards of 14,000 varieties. Is that right? Something like that?
I believe so. I thought it was closer to. Let me just double check that.
While we're thinking, I was curious if like there's
1,400.
Oh, 1400. Oh, so
like
it's
14,000 sounded like a lot. 1,400.
Close.
Yeah. It's okay. There's zeros.
No,
There's
kidding.
a lot
it's
of
not
them.
even close. I was just
it's literally like 10 times as many.
yeah. But still a ton. 1,400 plus is a lot.
A lot of different kinds of bats. Yeah. So I imagine
Yeah.
like when we're thinking pollinator bats, that's usually going to be like the nectar consuming ones because they're the ones interacting with the flowers to get the nectar, and thus like I'm sure there's mechanics involved where it's like getting pollen all over their flower or their fur, right? Like it's the nectar ones, right?
I would assume.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So one of the main species that we have here in the U.S. is the Mexican long-nosed bats. They fly deep down into cactus flowers, and they'll get themselves all full of pollen while they're drinking the nectar from the cactus flower. And then when they're moving around, they'll spread the pollen as well as like bring it to the next plant.
That's really awesome. Long-nosed Mexican bat.
Yeah, Mexican long-nosed bat. One of the more well-known species. When people think of like the bridge in Austin, is the Mexican free-tailed bat. Those are much smaller, but those mainly eat insects.
Oh, okay. And so that's why they're under the bridge, is because there's a lot of they're under the bridge because it's safe.
It's safe, and they're right over all that water, so there's a lot of good insect areas for them to go, peruse.
Awesome. Let's see.
And then also, there's just like obviously if there's 1,400 types of something that they come in a like size spectrum. So bats can be like pretty large.
Oh yeah, I've seen pictures of the fox bat in
fox,
like the African fox bat or something like that, and it looks like a flying fox. Like it's huge. It's got long red fur, and those get up to like 3 feet or something like that, like or 2.5 feet.
I think the wingspan can get up to
4.
6.
Oh yeah, they're huge.
And then you have little guys.
Those are huge. Yeah, the smallest one that I ever captured when I was in Panama was, I think they call it the mouse bat. It was like, maybe 2 inches long. Like it was a very, very tiny guy.
That's so cool.
Typically the ones that I would work with are maybe like baseball size. Like I got small hands, so I say the size of my fist, but yeah, probably about baseball size. And those were the Jamaican fruit eating bats. So they snacked on bananas mainly. The bats around the U.S., the ones that do the pollination, since some crops only open their flowers at night, like mangoes and peaches, they like to feed on those flowers for the nectar and then help to pollinate those trees.
That's wild.
Man. I did not even know that the flowers opened up at night on those plants. So
I definitely didn't either. And I have a peach tree.
Yeah. Well, now you know. Now you know who's helping you get some peaches at night.
Yeah, no kidding. And I thought they were like, I'm sure it's multiple species pollinating like peaches, sure. And that it's bugs and insects rather, and bats. I'd love to hear a little bit, like if you have like a kind of a short synopsis on the type of research you guys were doing down in Panama, and also if you want to plug the title of your research paper, if that's available for people to read, or do you have to send them a PDF?
I believe it's free. I mean, I have it pulled up in front of me, but I don't remember if it's because I already purchased it. If not, I can find the best way to get it out to everybody. It's on PubMed. The title is Flying Bats Use Serial Sampling to Locate Odor Sources.
Odor sources. Okay. So
yeah.
So what does that mean?
So we were looking at the behavior of Jamaican fruit-eating bats to see how their sense of smell affects the way that they choose food. So the best way to describe it in, layman's terms, I guess, is we trained them to find a food source in a new environment. We went out and used mist netting to capture them when we brought them in. We got them acclimated to the space, and then for the actual experiment, we used sponges to act as banana pieces, and we put different levels of ripeness of bananas out on the platform. So we had, I believe, 5 different platforms for the bats to choose from. Some of them didn't have anything. Some of them we used unripe plantains. Some of them we used rotten bananas. And the bats would go around and do like an inspection flight. So they would fly around, they would smell the different odors, and then they'd go back and choose which one that they decided was the best.
So they don't just scream out their noses; they actually use them like a nose too.
Yes.
Wow. Man. What talent?
What was your favorite out of the 5 stages of ripeness? Did you like you personally? Did you like the plantain? Did you like the rotten banana? What are we coming from here?
I'm a big fan of slightly browner bananas. I don't love, overly brown besides like using it in baking. And I don't know, this sounds like so weird, but if you've ever bitten to a banana and it's like has a slight crunch, that like makes me uncomfortable. I hate that. So,
those are my favorite
no
bananas.
plantains.
Oh, that's right. You like
those
slightly green. Yeah,
I hate those bananas.
That's weird. I don't like
bitch.
that.
I want 0 green. I want to know what kind of bat you are. We should create one of those, like one of those quizzes where you go
neutral, chaotic neutral.
Like eat.
Man,
eat peach or get nectar during the day or at night.
Like
determines what kind of bat you are.
When my munchies hit me, whether I'm eating green
banana.
banana.
All right, so we've established that there's lots of bats.
Yep.
And they're great pollinators and seed dispersers. Mm-hmm. And so let's maybe try to clear their name a little bit, because a lot of people think that bats are just creepy.
Yeah.
Did you observe while you were in Panama? Did you observe any like social structures or behaviors or anything like that?
So one of the focuses of one of my friends' research was on vampire bats, which are exactly what you think they are. They are the bats that do drink blood. And they have a very interesting social structure. So if a bat is sick, another bat will go out and find food for it, and it will feed the bat. They take care of their elderly. They have, they help share the care of the younger bats. So I think bats, they're kind of like people, where they like to take care of those who are a little bit less than them. They like to take care of those that are sick. And they just do a really great job of helping out each other.
Yeah, that's huge.
And also, fun fact, less than 1% of all bats in the world carry rabies.
Yeah, is it like their average body temperature, or is it just like it doesn't transfer easily with them?
I believe it's something to do with their body temperature, and I believe it's just like not as prevalent in bat species as they are in. I mean, I believe raccoons are one of the most common carriers. Yeah. So
I believe I've heard that too. That's really awesome. That it's breaking the stigma of vampire bats. I mean, people also think that bats are like attacking their heads at night, when really it's just your head is creating a column of warm air, and there's just like a slightly concentrated, more concentrated bugs above you. Sure. And so that's where the bats are going. Yeah. And they just happen. They're never going after your head. They're just above your head. And vampire bats. How often do you know? Like how often they even like bite a human, if really ever?
I mean, if you are observing bats, like how we were handling bats, I only heard of one person getting bit in the, multiple year study that they had. I don't think they go out of their way to bite humans, but obviously if some very large creature is like going to go grab you, I think I would bite you.
Yeah. Sure. And then vampire bats are in South America pretty exclusively, right?
Yeah, I think Costa Rica might be one of their highest. Why is my brain not working?
Populations, yeah. It's
habitats.
Okay.
One of their highest. Yeah, that's as close as they would get to the U.S. as of right now, at least.
But and I've heard that it's almost like our fault that they drink like the blood of cows. Obviously, no, we're not coaxing them on, but the destruction of rainforests and that for cattle grazing. if you had like a McDonald's right there, which is essentially what
a cow is
for a blood-drinking mammal, you would probably do the same thing. So maybe that has something to do with it as well.
They're just misunderstood creatures.
That's right.
Totally misunderstood, and I think there's a lot of people among us that are misunderstood too that remind us of bats. Yeah. I can think of a few.
A lot of us work the night shift.
A lot of us work at night, myself included.
Yeah. Those nighttime nectar flights you go on where you scream out your nose.
Hey, don't talk about my drinking like that. We hate flights in the industry.
Yeah, we don't do flights around these parts.
That's a little bar joke for y'all. Yeah. Well, cool, Evynn. I think that was a really interesting talk, and do you mind if we give out your Instagram if people want to reach out to you if they have bat questions or want to read your paper?
Yeah, that actually probably will be the best place to find my paper. In my Instagram bio, it has a link directly to it.
Okay, so to make sure that I don't mess it up, what is your Instagram tag?
My Instagram handle is Evynn Davis. My name is spelled EVYNNDAVIS.
Awesome. Really cool. She's also the manager over at Miskatonic Brewing, where I also pour some beers every now and then. So
shout out to those guys.
Shout out to those guys. Go grab a drink sometime, say hi, and talk about our podcast and how much you love us. But
ask me about that.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us, Evynn. And we'll talk to you again sometime.
Heck yeah. Thanks for having me, y'all.
All right. Bye-bye. Sigh.
What's wrong, buddy?
Well, I just realized this mushroom supplement I bought isn't actually made with mushrooms. It's made with something called myceliated grain?
Myceliated grain?
Oh, no!
I'm sorry to tell you, buddy, but myceliated grain is a sure sign of a poor quality mushroom supplement.
Well, dang. I wanted mushrooms, not brown rice. What should I do?
Well, you should support a small batch producer from right here in the Midwest. Keweenaw Apothecary.
Keweenaw Apothecary? Tell me more.
Keweenaw Apothecary specializes in high-quality mushroom extracts from Michigan, and they always use real mushrooms, never myceliated grain.
That sounds like exactly what I've been looking for. Where can I order?
Well, you can find them at keweenawapothecary.etsy.com. That's KEWEENAW apothecary.etsy.com. Be sure to read their many excellent reviews.
Thanks, buddy. I don't want no low-quality mushroom products from a factory. I want Keweenaw Apothecary.
Wowie wow!